In this video, we're going to talk about what the healing journey really looks like and how you can easily heal anxious attachment tendencies by the end of this year if you so desire. My name's Johanna and I'm your host, and I'm happy to be dropping in with you for the last time in 2025. During the last couple days, I've received so many messages about my podcast and my content and these videos. So one, I'm always so grateful to hear from you and get your feedback. I think it seems like during the holiday time, people have more free time maybe to listen to stuff, and with the new year energy that's coming, I know that you might feel ready to make a change and make a shift in whatever direction that you know would be the most supportive for you. So it's a beautiful time to reconnect to yourself, to feel into what you want, and then to direct your energy. And if you're here, I'm assuming one of the things that's important for you is healing anxious attachment tendencies, and how it might feel more is this desire to come back to yourself, which shows up as wanting to feel more confident in yourself, wanting to feel peaceful and grounded in your body, not being as taken on the emotional roller coaster constantly. So in this video, we're going to talk about what the healing journey really looks like and how you can easily heal anxious attachment tendencies by the end of this year if you so desire. So before we go in, I don't know if I have ever fully introduced myself in one of these videos. Maybe you are familiar with my face, and maybe you know my name's Johanna, but I am a somatic therapy facilitator, an inner work guide, a life coach. I'm trained in attachment repair, in somatic therapy, in shadow work, in inner child work, in Reiki, in energy healing, and internal family systems and parts work, and ceremony. And all of my tools and teachings are really guided towards a very holistic look at healing. My degree is also in human nutritional science, so I'm really always considering every level, the body, the well-being of your body in terms of food and movement and nourishment. And I'm deeply interested, and my offerings are more directed to the experience of your emotional body and what's happening in the subconscious and the different layers of the psyche and the nervous system. Because whenever we want to make a change, it is the subconscious that we often need to get into. If nothing else, the subconscious is what's blocking us from getting there. So when I work with clients, and even in these episodes, I will always be speaking to the deeper layers, the patterns, the belief, the things that we are unconsciously thinking and doing without even realizing it. That's what's unconscious about it, right? So interesting example of this. And at this point, I have done many somatic therapy sessions with practitioners, with me as the client, a lot of self-work, a lot of analyzing of my psyche and my patterns. So I can kind of see things and sometimes shift them immediately in real time, which doesn't always happen, but it's very cool when it can. So I'm going to give you a simple example of how this can happen quickly and how we can shift things quickly. And it doesn't have to be this whole emotional experience all the time. In the beginning, it does need to be that, and often there are stuck and stored emotions in the body that we need to move. But once you get into this internal relating to yourself, where you can just feel the difference between, okay, there's something that needs to be held and presenced here in me, and oh, I'm in this pattern again, I've gone to the depths of it, I know what this is, and how can I actually choose a different way in this moment? So again, I'm going to tell you the story that paints this as an example. So I was thinking about a friend of mine who just mentioned how she was getting horse riding lessons. And I noticed this feeling in my body of, oh my God, I would not want to get horse riding lessons, because that must make horse riding really intense really quickly. And that felt scary and fearful, and like I would be overwhelmed, and it would be too hard, and it would get too intense too fast. And then I thought, that was an interesting thought, because that doesn't really have anything to do with how I feel about horses. But let me think about the lessons that I have wanted to take too. So I started thinking about piano lessons and hula hoop lessons, which is something that I'm actually pursuing. And I noticed there actually was the same twinge of fear that if I take lessons and I have a teacher and that teacher has their presence on me, everything is going to become too intense, too fast, and I'm going to feel afraid and I'm going to fail. And that quickly linked me back to something that I have worked with already in depth in my own somatic practice, which is an experience that I had when I was young, where I was kind of pressured to learn really quickly. One of my parents just didn't really have the awareness or the correct attunement of how much intelligence that like a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old should have. So I was constantly expected to operate probably 3 or 4 years above my actual developmental age. And this created quite an intensity and rigidity in my system, like a tracking, a hypervigilance. And it became very important for me to pick up on details really fast. Otherwise, I would be met with an adult who was frustrated and impatient with me. So this is perfect coping style for a child to come up with. Thank you for my biology for being able to adapt this way. But on a nervous system level, it did not feel good. I felt scared. I felt intimidated. I also had a figure skating coach who was also my baseball coach because I lived in a very small town, and she had the same energy. She was like, wanted us to learn quickly, don't make the same mistakes twice. She would like yell the corrections, and it's okay. But the imprint that it left on my nervous system is what I've worked on unwinding. So when this horse lesson topic came up and it gave me that same body response that felt familiar to me, I was able to immediately get curious about why that felt that way, link it back to what I already knew about my experience in my subconscious, and then remind myself that not all teachers are like that. I'm allowed to ask to slow down. I'm allowed to ask questions. I'm allowed to be wrong. I can make mistakes. I can clarify. All of these things that I've had to relearn and kind of face a very uncomfortable edge of, because in the past I was too scared to be wrong. I was too scared to say I didn't know what something meant, too scared to ask questions, and I've healed that within me and created safety in my body around that. So in that moment, I could basically catch my old self, like catch her back up to reality instantaneously by reminding her the truth that I know, which is that I don't need to have that experience again, that I can ask for what I need and that it's all good and I can learn at my own pace. And the sensation immediately dissipated from my body. And this was probably really like a 15-second experience in my mind, but I'm telling you so that you can see how this work can really pay off and create situations where triggers just aren't so big anymore, or also so mysterious, because sometimes we want to know, like, why do I feel so overwhelmed or so anxious or so out of control? And it's because you haven't gone back into the linking of what happened and where did this first start. And so when we do somatic work and subconscious work, we start to build that map of ourselves and our experience. And sometimes all of that doesn't even matter anymore. And then we just get to be in who you are and what you know now. And that is bringing your subconscious into reality. It's like maturing these old parts of you and bringing everything up to date with what is real, which is that you are an intelligent, grown adult. So let me niche this into the topic that we're actually talking about today, which is not horse riding lessons, but what it would take to realistically feel super secure in yourself and in your worth in the next year. So the important thing with anxious attachment style is understanding that, like anything else, it's just a coping behavior that you learned when you were really young, right? So I just gave you an example of that based on an experience I had when I was young. So depending on your experience with your parents or caretakers, there was probably something missed, a need missed, and therefore there was an attachment rupture or an attachment trauma between you and one or both of your parents. Maybe they couldn't validate your emotions, maybe they were absent, maybe you were made to grow up really fast and you needed to be the big girl and the responsible one and the eldest daughter and take care of your siblings, or just be responsible for things in the house. Maybe you became really hypervigilant to the emotions of others because you had a parent who was really reactive and you felt like you needed to constantly be soothing them. Whatever was happening, you had no choice, but you had no choice to walk away from that relationship because you were a child. Now, as an adult, we know, or we try to remember, that if someone is treating us poorly, we should set a boundary or walk away from that relationship. But as a child, you didn't have that because that person was your guardian and your sense of security and also meeting your survival needs. I'm pointing that out to remind you that that coping mechanism developed on purpose, and it's part of your survival response that's really smart. Because if you didn't get it, if you couldn't have clued in, like, oh my gosh, I need to be this way so that my parent responds positively to me, then that could become a really bad situation where the parent can't handle you and it just becomes like a very bad relationship. So the body and mind adapt to always try and make the situation the best for you at the time. So that happened when you were young, and that got locked into your nervous system and your subconscious and created some beliefs that say when X happens, I should respond with Y. And those are the beliefs that we're trying to uncover to really understand what your anxious attachment beliefs are, because not everyone has the same anxious attachment tendencies. So I don't know if I've mentioned this. I think I have in one other video. I created this quiz that's called Which Anxious Attachment Archetype Are You? And it has 4 different results. So I have worked with hundreds of women with anxious attachment, and I realized pretty quickly, based on a nervous system lens and a survival response lens, that your experience of anxious attachment can look very different from someone else's. So taking this quiz is free, and it's going to give you clarity on how anxious attachment shows up for you. So you could take the quiz, there's a link in the description. Anyway, let me give you some examples because we want to uncover these beliefs. So you might have a belief like, if I don't do what this person asked me, they're gonna leave me. Or if I am annoying or I'm too much, I'm going to get broken up with. Or men will only like me if I am agreeable and I do everything for them. Men will only propose to me if I sleep with them 5 times a week. There are such a huge range of beliefs that I have heard come through my clients, even when they don't even realize that it's just a belief. It's just a story that they picked up somewhere along the way. But we can just free write and journal your beliefs about relationship. What do I believe about relationship? You can do this as what's called free association prompt. So start with the prompt, love is, and just watch what your mind creates for you. Love is hard. Love is hard to find. There are no good men around. You'll just see all of these negative beliefs that float to the surface. Love is something I can't have. So even if it doesn't feel like that's what you think, and you surprise yourself by being like, but I don't actually believe that, it's very valuable to do this exploration so that we can see what might be under the surface. And when we do this, we start to be able to catalog what are we trying to rewire in terms of healing and changing our mind. So let's say you come up with 20 beliefs that you know are not serving you. This is the gap of what we're healing. So we talked about the nervous system responses and the coping mechanisms that you created as a child, which now the reason why it feels painful is because it's not aligned to who you are, how you want to be in a relationship, or how you want to feel. When you were young, that might have simply felt like the right thing to do. You might have not really been able to consciously feel like it was wrong or bad, although you might have recognized, okay, this is actually crossing my boundary, but I feel compelled. I feel like I have to do this. But then as an adult, we hit a point where we still feel that same compulsion because it's a subconscious loop that we're running. And at the same time, we're going, why am I doing this? This is messed up. I don't want to feel this way. This is not working for my relationships and how I want to feel. And I'm feeling overwhelmed or desperate or anxious or fearful that they're going to leave, and it's not working. So let's revisit this thing. The painfulness and the uncomfortability of it is showing you that it's not actually aligned with who you are and how you want to feel. So now your adult mind is having this battle with your patterns and your nervous system, and that's been running on autopilot for so long, 20, 30, 40 years maybe. So we want to go back into these parts of our memory, kind of our psyche, our nervous system, and show it that it can operate a different way. Basically, it's like the nervous system learned its perceived roles and then didn't ask any more questions and was like, okay, this works. This is my personality now. I'm just going to wear this mask and go in this circle on autopilot because it's keeping us alive. It feels like it's keeping us alive. Part of your psyche that is not conscious to the reality that things are different now. There's a part of you that still truly thinks it's 6 years old. So we have to take our conscious awareness into our body through presence, through feeling, through compassion, through curiosity, and re-show our body that there is safety here within this vessel, within your physical body and energy. So we have our beliefs that we can work with. Another major point of opportunity that we can work with is working with triggers, specific triggers. So these are the type of situations where you notice that your body feels activated, and that might feel like a shutdown response. It might be for you something that's more like anger or a fight response or defensiveness to the point that it doesn't really match the situation. It could feel like easily getting panicked and overwhelmed and fearful, kind of more in the anxious direction. You probably know what being triggered feels like for you, but we want to start to see the patterns of where these triggers show up. So I just had a student share with me 4 of her trigger situations super clearly, and she did this because within the Becoming Secure membership, I have a training that's called How to Heal Your Triggers. And what she shared with me was that her biggest triggers are shifts in a relationship dynamic. So like when she can notice little shifts. So he's giving a lot of energy and then it shifts. The communication changes and she feels really sensitive to that. She feels really out of control and a fear of losing closeness. Another trigger was communication expectations not being met. So she notices within herself that she wants to communicate a lot, but if someone is leaving or she feels them kind of slipping away, that's going to feel triggering as well. Third example she gave was emotionally shut down partners. So she tries to communicate, she's open, but they feel shut down and unavailable, and that makes her system freak out. And the fourth one was people being late. So you could probably hear this, but when I read it also, I could see that all those 3 triggers were basically the same thing. Shifts in a relationship dynamic, communication expectation not being met, and emotionally shut down partners. You can feel how all of this has this same pulling away from us energy, either the person that we're trying to relate to or give our love to or get love from is closing, shutting down, or pulling away. Even those were 3 different examples, it's going to be the same. It's like the same path or belief or pattern in the body that we're working with because the feeling is the same. It's fear, panic, what did I do wrong? She might feel it in her throat or her chest. You might feel it in your stomach, but it's actually the same thing to work with. So what's great about that is that we can heal those things simultaneously. All of those can just not become as triggering anymore because even if we have all these things that trigger us, they probably actually fall into just 2 or 3 categories of what our nervous system, survival response, primal body thinks is going on. The primal body is always worried about abandonment and death. So we can even sometimes argue it all comes down to the fear of death. If we follow all the threads of every trigger and fear down, it always goes, and then I'm going to be alone, and then I'm going to die. I'm going to have no friends, and then I'm going to be alone, and then I'm going to die. I'm going to be exiled, and I'm going to be hated, and then I'm going to be alone, and then I'm going to die. So there is value in the exploration of why is this upsetting to me? When I can consciously understand that it's not about me or it's not a big deal. So it's worth exploring for you what the ultimate, the bigger fear around the trigger is, because that's the key to uncovering what we need to feel safe in the face of that same triggering behavior from someone else so that it feels more neutral. And exploring and uncovering here is going to point to what we need to feel safe and what our boundaries and needs are. So you already know that understanding your own boundaries and needs is so important on this journey. So that's going to be a crucial step, and we can uncover this through exploring something like trigger. And when you know your boundaries so intimately that things just become a really clear yes or no, then you'll be able to make easier choices that are less about people pleasing or doing the right thing, and you'll feel way more in alignment with who you are. And once you've found this center within yourself, which I'm sure you probably feel, maybe a little bit of the time, maybe a lot of the time, and it's just not in relationship, maybe it's fleeting, but you do have these moments where you're like, yeah, I got this. Yeah, I do have value. I am confident. I am capable. And it feels amazing. That is the energy that we want to be able to cultivate and come back to easier and easier and quicker and quicker. It shouldn't be weeks in between feeling capable. As much as your body is made to create coping behaviors and people pleasing and fawning and really focused on survival, it's also made to feel love and acceptance and safe and peaceful and secure. You are made for that. So you have the framework and the blueprint for that within you already. It's just about cleaning up and working with and looking at and bringing your awareness and love and compassion to the parts of you that forgot that. So never forget that the blueprint for being secure and being really any and all of who you want to be is already within you. We do the healing work and the inner work to untangle the beliefs and the thoughts and the crunchy parts and the fear and the tension and the personality things we adopted that have driven us to forget that the secureness is your nature. And this is just one of my favorite things to do, because with every time, with every one of the untangling of the knots or letting the fog of the fear clear away, we automatically liberate energy. And it feels amazing. And then you become more of who you are and you can rest into more of who you are. So a journey to being secure within 1 year is a journey of that remembering. And of course, within that comes and requires practice. So you're going to be doing so much of this uncovering work, which connects you more to who you are and what you need. You're also going to be bringing energy back into your body. And these beliefs that you're reframing and redeciding and rebelieving can start to sound like, I'm worthy of receiving. I know how to receive. There are amazing men everywhere. I'm allowed to have safe, beautiful relationships. I trust my partner. I respect my partner. I love my partner and he loves me. You have to practice that in your day-to-day experience for it to change. So I was talking to a client the other day, and we were talking about how we sometimes even romanticize the transformation of who we're going to be when we're secure and what that's going to be like, and forget that it's the moments day to day that require us to start to step into that version of us, like being in the grocery store and asking for help, or just asking for what we need at work, or communicating something to one of our parents or family members. Those are actually the things that count and make a difference. It's not always in the meditation or pulling an oracle card or being in a yoga class. Those things are beautiful and they are really amazing tools for cultivating awareness, but the real shifts happen in the moment-to-moment experience of, what is my mind thinking? What behavior am I impulsively moving towards? And how can I stop this pattern and self-soothe so that I can choose a different way? So I trust that this is landing with you. I trust that you're feeling encouraged. What I want to know is if you feel like having support on this journey would be helpful. Think real-time support, somatic practices, live calls, live sessions where you can come on Zoom and drop into your practice and share about your process. That is something that I would love to give you. So if you've been watching any videos, any other videos, you know that I've been talking about my Becoming Secure membership a lot because I love it and I love pouring into it and supporting the 100+ women that are in there. And 100 might sound like a lot, like a big group that you're going to get lost in. It's actually not like that. There is so much space and room for you and for you to be guided and held and supported by me. And I always have time to touch base with every single woman who shows up to every single call. And they don't need to be 3-hour calls for that to happen. Everyone's flowing at their own pace, and there's multiple calls to join. So you will get supported and guided and given a custom curriculum of what practices and teachings that I think you should go into first. And it's just a beautiful place to be in for accountability and support, and to just feel seen and heard in your experience, and really learn how to do everything that I've been talking about in this video on a deep level, and become someone who is a self-healer really, and has the tools to be able to alchemize these different layers of the human experience. Because if you've been in the personal development world, you know that there's many layers of things that we have to work through, and we have to really cultivate the tools so that we can do that when we need it. And that's communication tools and boundary tools and body tools and energy clearing tools and emotion moving tools, etc., etc. So I talked about a couple of the big concepts and the big layers required to work through and master in terms of becoming secure. But I want to take you through literally step by step what it could look like to become secure in a year, the realistic journey, which does go like this. So January, you're highly motivated, you are finally starting to do somatic practices, and you're feeling connected to and able to work with your body. Nice. Okay. Body awareness is coming online. You're starting to receive information from your body about yourself, your needs, your boundaries, your pains. In February, you do the inner child work, and your inner child is starting to get the love and care that she needs, which dials you more into your personal power and into self-compassion. You're starting to learn when to rest instead of pushing through. In March, the nervous system practices that you've been doing start to make boundary setting easier. You set a boundary with someone this month, and you felt really proud about how you handled it and the result that you got. In April, you started something new. Maybe it was a hobby or a project or dating something new, and your self-doubt started creeping in, but instead of shutting down, you expanded your edge. You pushed your comfort zone and you leaned into the discomfort, proving to yourself that you can do hard things and you're still safe. Then there was May. Life got busy and you fell off the practice for a little bit, but luckily you had joined a year-long group inside Becoming Secure. So the support from the community helped you to reset and reconnect, and you're realizing that it's okay to need help sometimes, and it's okay if you fall off the wagon, you can always get back on. Now it's June and you are in a good flow, and you're starting to notice shifts in relationships. People are actually treating you differently because of the way you're showing up, and you were really connected to your values for this month and felt respected for that. Now it's July. You feel amazing. You're feeling confident. You're feeling grounded. You said no to a situationship that didn't feel right to you. You are honoring your growth. August, you notice that the world is shifting around you. People are starting to meet your needs without even having to ask. You are feeling surprised with how loved you feel, and you just feel rested into yourself, and you're surprised with how good it feels. Now it's September, and your mind continues to be blown. You're asking, when did my relationships get this good? Your connection to yourself feels deep and steady, and you are giving and receiving love in the ways that you've always wanted. Now we're coming into October. You've done 9 full months of practice and devotion to yourself, and so anxious thoughts that maybe feel like they're running your life now feel like a distant memory. You navigated a trigger this month, and you feel calm and surprised at how centered you stayed and how detached you were and how you knew it just wasn't about you. In November, you decided to stop questioning your worth altogether and were inspired to dream bigger and not play small in that thing that you've been wanting to make happen. You started taking action towards those goals. Finally, it's December of 2026, and looking back, you cannot believe how much has changed. You can see that healing was not a linear journey, but you cultivated so much self-love and cultivated an amazing relationship with someone. You cannot believe how good this relationship is. They're an amazing communicator, an amazing lover, and everything feels so much more aligned, and you feel so much more empowered to choose yourself and be loved for that, to be loved for just who you are and not what you do. So that's your 1-year journey, showing you what this looks like when you commit to a year. If that feels supportive, realistic, exciting, then Becoming Secure gets to be your place for accountability. It gets to be like your gym membership for your nervous system and your inner healing work, and your life force cultivating, empowerment cultivating place where you get to come and train and be loved and be held in the way that works for you. So I would love for you to go on that 12-month journey with me, and I want to see you inside. We also have a different theme of study every single month. So some examples would be a month focused on healthy relating and communication, how to communicate to get what you want. Another month could be body wisdom, really learning how to explore the different sensations of your body. Another one has been feminine energy. So there are lots of different topics that we get to visit under the umbrella of becoming secure, not just the umbrella of anxious attachment, but becoming secure and also embodying confidence. There was an entire month this year on confidence, one on anchoring trust, and you also get access to those recordings. So if you're someone who's like self-led, I want to watch all this content and kind of binge it, that can be your path. If you want to take it a little slower and just come on live calls when you feel to, use the guided somatic practices library when you feel to, that is there for you. I have a feeling that there is a very good annual discount still going on right now, so check the link below and you should be able to join for an entire year at 40% off, or you can just join us at the month-to-month rate and leave whenever you feel complete and supported. So I'm going to leave you with that. I wholeheartedly believe that 1 year of this work is enough to just feel completely different, to really embody. I mean, we can embody a different identity in an instant if we want to, but being able to hold that energy constantly and not be fighting our past and fighting and like trying to resist all of our stuff is not the smoothest way to do it. What we want to do is unpack, open the suitcase, be like, okay, what's in here? What's actually in my baggage? And how can I sort through this and decide what I want to keep and what I want to donate and what needs a good wash and a steam and an iron, and where I might find something that I forgot about myself. You know, when you're cleaning your room and you like find the old jewelry, and that is part of this process as well. So would love to meet you inside Becoming Secure. The link is in the show notes. If you made it this far in this video, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up if it was valuable. Subscribe if you want to be notified for more, and I can't wait to meet you inside the Becoming Secure membership. Link is in the description below. See you soon. Mwah.